Hey, in this video, I'm going to be talking about how I interviewed 100 multi-billionaires and multi-millionaires and got completely depressed in the process, and how not only I learned from that experience, which was amazing because I went into starting my podcast and YouTube and life journey and business thinking, man, if I could just get access to these big names, get to meet them, get to befriend them, get to interview them, it would change my life. And while it certainly has changed my life and helped me, and I have learned a ton in the process, there was also another side to that. And that side wasn't a pretty one. So in this video, I'm going to get into how doing 100 interviews got me completely depressed and how I was lost, confused, down and out, and how it actually created a lot of mental health challenges for me in years prior. And so basically, the point of this video is really to teach you two things. Number one, to trust yourself. And number two, to realize that trial and error is usually going to influence your behavior, your confidence, your sense of certainty and identity more so than anything else. And I'll get into a little bit about the power of asking for advice and wisdom. But in this video, I really want to touch on what my expectations were going into interviewing all these people and how I thought it would change my life, B, how it actually changed my life for the better, and then C, how it actually ended up having a negative effect because of how I was emotionally and intellectually, logically handling a lot of it. So let's get into it in this raw Day of 100 episode series. All right. So, long story short, when I started my podcast, I knew I wanted answers, right? And I was a student of the game. I remember having no money in my pocket, no money in my bank account, literally no money in my gas tank when I went to go interview Grant Cardone or billionaire Tom Bilyeu, or even when I would, go to network, I would go to different networking events. And then later when I did the pod, I would go to like events with Tony Robbins, where he had a premiere for his documentary film, I'm Not Your Guru, and all these business conferences. And I would pitch these people in 2017 and early 2018 when I had no money in my bank account. I literally was just so gung-ho to do this, to inspire the world, to prove to myself that I could do it. I wasn't doing it to build a brand or make money or any of this stuff. I was doing it because I was so frustrated with my own life that I wanted answers. And so I went into those interviews looking for answers, not as, a lot of times when you see interviews or podcasts, it's one millionaire guy talking to another millionaire guy. But I was like the broke, hungry student asking these people, I was coming at a place of such hunger and, ferociousness of curiosity that I think what set my interviews apart, and what I've been privileged enough to have millions of people get to watch the podcast and YouTube channel, and, thousands and thousands of comments. So many people have appreciated the types of questions I ask, the type of specifics about people's background and how they grew up in their childhood and their early failures, because a lot of people can relate to that. And if there's anything I've learned from content, it's that when people consume your content or listen to your interviews or watch a video from you, they think one of two things, right? Me too, or so what? Me too, in the sense that they can relate to what you're saying. Maybe you can relate to what I'm saying and being down on your luck. And the more people you ask, you feel confused. Or so what? You create content, maybe this video, to some people, they're like, oh, who cares? You interviewed 100 people, got depressed. I don't care. Right? And that's okay either way. But people are generally thinking one of two things, and it can take on many forms in their head. But either me too, I can relate to that, or B, so what? And so for me, I went into these interviews because I wanted to know how these people thought. I want to know how Tom Bilyeu built a billion-dollar Quest nutrition company without ever having experience with bars. I wanted to know how Tony Robbins became the number one speaker on planet Earth and impacted millions of lives, myself included. I wanted to learn how Grant Cardone overcame his drug addiction and alcohol. I wanted to learn the humble beginnings of all these people that I had the privilege to interview, co-founder of Wikipedia. I mean, the list goes on and on of amazing men and women I've had the privilege to get to know and meet, in every industry on the Passionate Few channel, which, if you guys know, it's the podcast. If not, there's a link in the description below, as well as to my social medias. But yeah, like, I wanted answers, and I wanted it with such ferociousness that I was asking these questions and winging these impossible interviews, meeting freelancers, videographers and editors, and connecting with them and doing net 30 invoices. Like, even, for example, with Grant Cardone, I was taking such imperfect action that the video company, for those that don't know, how I got an interview with Grant Cardone is he was in LA, and I saw that he was in town. So I drove 2.5 hours to Beverly Hills, pitched him on being on the podcast. They let me do the podcast. They said, hey, can you do it a couple days from now? And I said, yes, with no experience or prep or anything. I reached out to everybody from my friends and family that I knew and asked if they knew a videographer. Fortunately, there was a guy who said he would do it for $550. And so I reached out to everybody I know, friends and family wise, who had a real estate office, because I thought maybe I'll get a real estate sponsor to cover it. I negotiated with the videographer and editor a net 30 invoice so I could pay the 550 to shoot the Cardone interview because I didn't have money. 30 days later, this real estate office paid for it, and now till this day, if you watch that Grant Cardone interview with me in Malibu, you'll see a real estate ad right at the front of it, right? And so these are the little things that I did to like imperfect action my way into finagling this because I was so hungry for these answers that I was had a mindset of do whatever it takes, however crazy it is. And so, long story short, I started interviewing all these people and getting different answers. I started asking people, I'd ask, hey, Ed Milet, I'm in this place and this place in my business. What do you think I should do? And he'd give me great advice. I'd ask Cardone and he'd give me great advice. And I know I keep bringing up those two, but it's because they're the two that are probably most known on social media. But I've had the privilege of meeting a ton of them, right? The Andy Frisellas, the Tony Robbins, the Russell Brunson from ClickFunnels, billionaire John Paul DeJoria, who created Paul Mitchell Hair Systems. His name is John Paul DeJoria. I believe is the 45th wealthiest person in America, multi-billionaire. He started not one, but two multi-billion-dollar companies. The first was the Paul Mitchell shampoo and conditioner. The second was Patron tequila. And he sold Patron to Bacardi for $5.1 billion. Not too long after that, I interviewed him. I think it was several months later, within a year, I believe, of him selling the company. And so I got to ask him in his office in person in Beverly Hills, real life billionaire. When keep in mind, I was broke as a joke. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, who, by the way, the billionaire was connected to me because my personal trainer's mom was a friend of his assistant's, right? So crazy how the universe works when you're in aligned energy. But that's for another video, the power of networking. Subscribe and stay tuned for that one. But anyway, so I was in his office, his billionaire's office, and I'm asking him for advice. And he's telling me, hey, you don't want to be in the order business. You want to be in the reorder business. So I'm like, dang, this person says sell high ticket. This person says sell low ticket. This person says sell recurring. This person says, hey, even though you love coaching, consulting, it's not scalable because it's not a group model. But to me, I love coaching clients. I've had one-on-one coaches myself to level me up, and I've coached other people to level up their life. And I've had clients who I'll bring on here on the pod or on this little free 100-day thing I'm doing. We can call it a pod, I guess, whatever. No rules on this channel, right? And I've helped them generate 6-7 figures. I've helped clients become millionaires. I've helped millionaire clients grow even more. And I say this humbly because I'm really good at helping people unlock strategies that might be holding them back. But sometimes we all experience that, right? In my own life, right? I can coach others and still have coaches, and my coaches can have coaches. Tony Robbins has coaches, right? And so there's nothing wrong. Look at the greats in sports and athletes, the LeBron James, the Michael Jordan, the Kobe Bryant, Tiger Woods. You name it. There's always somebody instrumental at helping you see your blind spots, see what you don't see. And so for me, I was always super passionate about coaching and live events, but for a while there, I had such a demand of coaching clients, and I've been privileged to work with amazing people, and I still take them on a limited basis. If you guys want more information, we'll have them in the link below to apply. There's links. But for a while there, I stopped doing it because people were like, oh, it's not scalable, or it's not this, or it's not that. And so I let those ideas get into my head. And then someone else would say, hey, well, you need to sell a physical product. And then someone else would say, well, hey, don't sell it to your audience. Then someone else goes, well, hey, you really got to monetize your audience. And so I was pulled all these different ways. And everybody in the world, because of the names I was interviewing, wanted to work with me and partner with me and put ideas in my head. And so despite my best of intentions, I just always had all these voices in my head. And a lot of them, the challenge was a lot of them were credible. It wasn't just a crazy neighbor or crazy this or crazy that. It was actually very successful people, quote unquote, financially successful anyway, giving me all these ideas. And so I went from being confused and lost and uncertain on how to do anything but monetize my passion and love for creating videos and coaching people to trying all these other things. And many of them ended up very successful, to be honest with you. Yeah, we were able to generate, really good money, to the tune of multiple 6 figures in different categories, collectively 7 figures. But in the process of doing that, I tried so many different things, learned what I do like, learned what I don't like. And so the reason I wanted to bring this up is because I wanted to share with you something that I think a lot of you who may not have the privilege of getting to sit down toe to toe with the amazing men and women I have, you would think that, like, oh, if I could just have access to them, I would have all the answers. The reality is, I've been on so many calls, so many text threads, so many emails, so many Zooms, so many in person meetings. And I've asked every question to every hero of mine that I could imagine almost at this stage. And I can tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, two things are certain. Number one, everybody's different. And number two, you just have to try things. You just have to try things. I'll never forget. I had the privilege of sitting down with the CEO of ClickFunnels, Russell Brunson. For those that don't know, ClickFunnels is a software solution that specializes in building out websites and funnels to help you generate clients and customers online through your web page. Think of it like a web page um, that acts as a funnel for your income, right? So, like a web page people go to, and it drives traffic to your specific offer, and it guides them through purchasing transactions. It's just optimized for the customer journey experience. And so he was like the king of the software platform who taught people how to monetize their passion, how to consult and help people. And so I loved their stuff. I still love ClickFunnels stuff. And so I had the privilege of sitting down with Russell Brunson and talking with him for like 20 minutes and picking his mind. And I was like, hey, should I do this, or should I position it this way? And it was beautiful because all of the ideas he gave me were not ideas that me and the team hadn't already thought of. In fact, it was a lot of the same exact ideas. The only difference was that instead of us thinking about marketing as how do we do this thing right, or how do we launch this thing perfect, his approach was like, just go test things. And he told me something I'll never forget. He said, the best marketers are the best testers. And so that completely switched my frame from thinking I need to get the tangible black and white concrete binary answer of do this or don't do this, that the certainty that so many of us seek, and really throw that out the window because the attachment to certainty attracted tragedy and attracted stress and overwhelm and anxiety. Can you relate to this? Right? Paralysis analysis. I'm sure you've been there if you're not there now. And so in the process, I just got so overwhelmed and flustered because I'm like, dang, even Russell doesn't have the black and white answer. I remember going into a mental health place where I was not feeling hot. And I know some people can make debates on depression, clinical depression. You know, I'm not here to debate that, but I'm here to say I was feeling incredibly low. However, people can word that, right? Everyone's pain feels maximum to them. Whether you're a kid in high school who got his heart broken by a guy or gal, or you're a billionaire going bankrupt, right? Everyone's pain on a cellular level, everyone's pain feels maximum to them. That's a lesson I learned. And so my pain felt maximum to me. And so here I was, having met all these legends, having the experience and the relationship with all these people, but still overwhelmed before doing the interviews, overwhelmed doing after a bunch of the interviews, and I was lost until I realized one day something very profound. And that's what I want to share here with you guys. The way I got out of that was to completely switch my frame from thinking I'll be happy when I get X or when I have clarity, to realizing that human beings are a work in progress, not a finished product. And so what does that mean? That sounds vague. Like, come on, Omar, what's the lesson here? Well, the lesson here is very simple. You have to learn to trust yourself in trying things. And in my opinion, trying things quickly, because nothing will inform you more than the wisdom of experience, right? I believe they say something to the expression of a smart man or woman or intelligent man or woman learns from their mistakes, but a wise person learns from the mistakes of others. And it's important to be able to decipher mistakes from others with also wisdom from others, right? And there's a classic expression of like, well, hey, don't take advice from people you don't want to be like. But what if you want to make $10 million dollars and there's 10 different people who make $10 million dollars, and all 10 of them give you different advice? If you haven't been there, I have, and I'll tell you, it's overwhelming. But here's the secret that I've learned. And it's a great lesson that I learned from the great Dr. John DeMartini. And he told me, Omar, because I told him about this, and he goes, Omar, pay attention, because this is the gold right here. He goes, Omar, you have to start with what you know and let the rest grow. Start with what you know and let the rest grow. And so the reason I want to share that with you is because a lot of times we may not be giving ourselves permission to do it our way because it looks silly, it looks stupid, traditionally it doesn't work this way, or whatever it is. But what I have found is that the strongest need in the human psyche is the need to remain consistent with who we believe we are. And if you start trying things that feel like they're against your value system or feel like they're against who you are, then what happens is you begin to lose your sense of connectedness to yourself. You lose a confidence, you lose a momentum, and little by little, you'll notice your drive start to fade, and it'll manifest in the form of self sabotage. Many of us, if you think that sounds crazy, have probably experienced this with work. If you're in a 9 to 5 position or a job you hate or a business you hate, chances are you've been doing more of the same and you're stuck somewhere between not happy but not unhappy enough to do something about it. And very often what happens is when you're stuck in that place, it's hard to navigate out, right? You get stuck in that rut. And so for me, by starting with I know and letting it grow, I started to do little things that I trusted. So I would say, for example, okay, I don't know how to monetize my audience. I don't know how to sell. I'm overwhelmed. I'm stressed. Well, what do I know? Well, I do know I love creating inspiring stories. Every time I did a podcast, everyone told me, hey, don't do it this way. Don't ask this. Right? Everybody put all these rules on me, but when I did it my way 100%, people loved it. With coaching, people were like, "Oh, do it this way or this way." I started doing one-on-ones the way I wanted to, and I loved it, and I've attracted such amazing, beautiful clients, and many of them have been massively successful both financially and in the sense of their inner fulfillment. And so then I would say, okay, well, what else do I know? I said, well, I want to launch a product and I'm working on one behind the scenes, but now's not the time. So then I began to mentally compartmentalize and I started to try different things. And little by little, it went from me seeking peace from the certainty of answers from others and switched to me getting a sense of joy or fulfillment from my identity being confident in the fact that, hey, I am a professional tester. I'm like a scientific experimenter. I can try things, poke things, and something will pop out the other side. Whether or not it's the result I want or the result I don't want, something will happen. And there are actions and reactions, there are causes and effects. And so when you can begin to sort of trust the fact that advice from others is great to test, but merely to test instead of to like do it their way, it took off all of the pressure, all of the overwhelm, all of the anxiety, all of the depression, all of the restriction that held me back for so long. And it gave me the ability to go, hey, these are just options. Instead of this is what you should do, these are just options. And so, based on the options of the wisdom of others, however high credibility they are, then instead of just trying to take it face value or try to make them make sense of each other, I just accepted, hey, there are multiple ways, right? There's hundreds of ways, thousands of ways, probably tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of ways to make 100 grand, to make $1 million, to make $10 million. And so once you give yourself permission to do it in an aligned fashion, to do it in a way where you're not bound by anybody else's rules, but rather give yourself permission to try things, I have found that that ends up being the most fruitful, the most calm, the most honest, the most integral way to go about your pursuit so that you can live in congruency with yourself, right? I said it a little bit earlier. The strongest need in the human psyche is the need to remain consistent with who we believe we are. So if you believe you are a person that wants to do things a certain way, I always recommend you try it, no matter what billionaire or zillionaire tells you otherwise, because then you'll have the mental reference of the experience. And at the end of the day, the goal isn't to do things right. It's to become the type of person that has the awareness to habitually do things right, or habitually do things effectively. And I think Tony Robbins sums it up this way. He says, God, what does he say? He says something like, bad experience leads to wisdom, and wisdom, oh no, bad decisions lead to wisdom, and wisdom leads to good decisions. But you kind of need the prerequisite of taking actions that sometimes end up proving not to be the best decision. But if they feel aligned, if they feel good, even if someone else is telling you do it this way, I have found that it's very important to try it, because when you have an aligned thing or a compelling vision or an idea or business plan or execution or conversation or whatever it is, I've found that instead of judging it because you think it looks weird to others or whatever the limiting belief is, it's scary, whatever, if you just confront it, something will happen. Even if the advice that everybody gave you was that it'll be a bad reaction, you do the thing your way and you get that bad reaction. Now the anchorage of that will inform the next decision, and now the informed you is going to take the next attempt. But see, the challenge is on the flip side. If you didn't do that, like say you wanted to act on it your way, it probably wasn't going to go your way anyway, but that felt like the best plan. if you do it and it works, A, you'll feel great that you trusted yourself. And B, like I said, is if you do it and it doesn't work, a lot of times that'll help inform what's going on in a more contextual way. So you won't be limited or bound by all the hypotheticals in your head. Because, like I said, the flip of that is you just do it someone else's way. Even if you succeed someone else's way, it doesn't really teach you anything. It might teach you that it works, but the problem with that is that now you're the type of person who's dependent on someone else to always give you the next step. And so the goal is to build a muscle, kind of like a trainer in the gym, right? It's like it's a combination of you want your trainer to help you lift the weight. You want someone, a trainer could say, "Hey, do these types of workouts," but they might not have the inner awareness that that puts a strain on your back or that hurts your wrist, or you have inner sensitivities that you don't have the ability to communicate that aren't aligned, or they recommend you to sell in this way or sell this thing. But for you internally, it just doesn't feel connected. There's no passion, there's no juice, there's no energy or meaning. Even if you don't value passion, energy, and meaning and all that, there may just not be the desire at a core level, or there may be misalignment. So always pay attention and consider the source of the advice you have, because a lot of wisdom is predicated on alignment to begin with. And I have always found, I'll leave you guys with this little point here. I know I kind of rambled, but I hope this kind of inspired you and opened your mind to see that, like, a lot of times the answers, there's a great expression. It says, all the answers you need are inside of you. You just have to get them out. And sometimes other people, kind of like a match, right? When you light a match, it's like the capacity for the match to be lit was inside of it, but it needs the right friction. It needs to rub up against the right friction point in order for that flame to light. And so think of yourself like a match, and you can try to, light it on a few different ideas, and they may not all hit. But the reality is there are multiple surfaces where it can. And so you just got to decide, where do you want it to light? And give yourself permission to follow that path, even if it's weird, even if it's counterintuitive to 100 different billionaires' pieces of advice, even if it feels silly or stupid, because even if you end up doing their thing later, it is better to succeed doing it your way and learning from it and the perpetuity of that in time than it is to just succeed someone else's, where you're constantly dependent on their advice to succeed again and again and again. Is that making sense? So, anyways, I know this was a long-winded way of kind of sharing these open-ended thoughts, but I wanted to share this from the heart. I'm actually loving doing this channel because I shoot these videos in one take. I don't worry about being polished. I know I'm a little bit all over the place, but it's coming from the soul. So if this resonates with you and you enjoy it, I enjoy I believe at this stage I have like 29 subscribers, and my last video got 16 views. I'm used to getting hundreds of thousands of views. So it's humbling, but I enjoy this so much. So anyways, I hope this speaks to your soul. I'm going to get better and better at these. If you have any other questions, feel free to comment down below. If you enjoyed this video, let me know. But yeah, I just wanted to share it with you guys so that you remember that everything you need is inside of you, and finding the right people, the right mentors, the right quality people that can deeply understand you. And I found the best advice comes from them, is when people can, I try to do this with all my coaching clients, as well as with my coaches, is I try to align based on what they want most, not what I like most or what I think they should do, whatever. It's always predicated on what is your vision? What is it that you want to do? And if you don't have that vision or you're not clear on it, that's okay. The good news is you just start with what you know and let it grow. Start with the vision you do see, right? So for me, for example, creating this new channel, it's scary. It's overwhelming. Like, I'm going to create 100 videos in a row. What the F? But it's because for years I was in anguish over wanting to create something separate from the passionate few, where I get to talk, but I'm not under the pressure of doing things perfectly. It doesn't have to get views. And if it doesn't get views, it doesn't hurt me with the ability to get other interviews, because guests want to see that your last videos got a lot of views. And obviously my interviews can get more views than these videos. And so I just would get in my head and I was stuck forever. But I said, you know what? Gave myself permission, took imperfect action. And now I'm doing a scientific experiment, creating these 100 videos, long form like this. I don't know what it'll turn into, but I'm starting with what I know and I'm letting it grow. And by the way, I asked a bunch of YouTubers if I should do this. Almost all of them advised against it. And so I did it anyways, because to me it feels right, it feels aligned, and it feels like, in the great words of Alex Hormozy, the work works on you more than you work on it. So I'm curious and excited to see who I become as a person, how I grow by creating these videos, sharing them from the heart, not worrying about being polished and perfect, and just, you know, sharing my soul with you guys here. So hope you guys enjoyed it. And remember, Next time you want advice, yes, you may think a billionaire or millionaire is cool to meet, but make sure that whoever you get advice from is aligned with what feels right to you. Trust yourself, believe in yourself, give yourself permission to do it your way. You can always iterate later. It's a forever game. Even if you took someone's advice and made 100 grand or your first 10 grand a month or your first $1,000,000, there's always going to be another level, another million, another 10K, another 100K, another health thing, another relationship bear. There's always another level. And so don't get so dependent on someone else's advice that you always need their permission to go to the next level. Give yourself permission to trial and error. Give yourself permission to be, I kind of think of it like a scientist, like a scientific experiment, right? You come up with a hypothesis, you test the hypothesis, right? You make an observation on it, you test the hypothesis, you play with the variables. And now when you experiment, you get feedback, and then you compare that feedback to your initial hypothesis, you come up with a conclusion, and then you create a new hypothesis. And so thinking of yourself as a tester, and every day is a new opportunity to experiment, uh, was how I got to like the realization of like, oh man, I don't have to be depressed. I don't have to be overwhelmed thinking, oh, I need answers and I'm not getting them. But rather, oh man, now I have more ideas to try, more ideas to test, more matchboxes to rub up my match on and see what lights my fire. So, anyways, hope this video encouraged you. Hope it inspires you. Hope you guys liked it. And yeah, give yourself permission to go out there, believe in yourself, trust yourself, try it your way, be flexible in approach, but consistent in outcome. All right, guys, go get those dreams and hope you enjoyed the video. God bless. And comment below what questions you guys have. I want to learn more. Peace.